Yet another school abductions as a military rescue over 80 and more still missing in Afaka area of Kaduna State in northwest Nigeria. How will the Buhari government solve these abductions in our schools? And the Ministry of State for Petroleum has apologized for the stories around the increase in the pump price of petrol. He said the president has not approved any increase, and such increase should be ignored. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome to Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimberley at Channels Television's global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. It's another Black Friday, but we'll get to the reasons why we need to find a solution to these school abductions quickly. In Kaduna State, yet another abductions have happened, but how do we end this trend? Stay with us, everyone, as we talk about the solutions right here on the program. But let's tell you about some court stories and those indicted of stealing government money. A 5-man panel of the Supreme Court has affirmed a 10-year jail term slammed on the former governor of Plateau State, Senator Joshua Dariye, who is serving a 10-year jail term for criminal breach of trust. In a lead judgment read by Justice Helen Ogumiju on behalf of Justice Mary Odili panel, the court held that the appeal court was right to have affirmed the judgment of an Abuja High Court, which originally sentenced Senator Dariye. The apex court, however, quashed the charge of criminal misappropriation of funds, which carries a 2-year jail term. If you think there is an increase in the price of petrol, it is not true, and there is an apology from government on that matter. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Mr. Timi Prestiva, today said Nigerians may have woken up to the stories of an increase in the pump price of petrol to 212 naira per litre. But according to him, it is completely untrue. Mr. Silva said neither the President, who is the Minister for Petroleum Resources, nor himself, who deputized for him as Minister of State, has approved that the pump price of petrol should be increased by 1 naira. The minister in the statement says he sincerely apologized to all Nigerians for any distress and inconvenience the unfortunate information might have caused. Let me allow you to see for yourself the exact words in those statements by the minister. He said, and I quote, irrespective of the source of that information, I want to assure that it is completely untrue. Neither Mr. President, who is the Minister of Petroleum Resources, nor myself, who deputized for him as Minister of State, has approved that petrol price and it should be increased by 1 naira. I therefore urge you to disregard this misleading information. And to our story for discussion tonight, Black Friday, you may call it, and government have now stormed yet another school in northern Nigeria and taking innocent schoolgirls with them. 30 students kidnapped from the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Afaka, in Kaduna State are still missing after gunmen attacked the school on Thursday night, abducting many of them. The state government says the troops were able to rescue 180 students shortly after the incident happened, while efforts are ongoing to rescue the remaining students. The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, explains that 42 female students, 130 male students, and 8 staff were rescued by the troops. Let me show you a picture of what the past abductions we've seen under the President Buhari government in the last few years, and before then, what it's looked like. At least in the last 5 years, we've seen so many school abductions, and this is a pictorial representation of what we're dealing with right here in Nigeria. Most of this are in the northern region of the country, from Kankara to Dapchi, from Jangebe to Chibok, Kagara, and now Afaka. We've seen this situation happening, and military and security agencies are working to rescue these people that have been abducted. Well, the president only yesterday reiterated the shoot-on-sight order on those who carry AK-47 and has also promised that there won't be any kind of abductions again. But where do we go from here? Few days after he said there won't be abductions, we've seen yet another one happening in Kaduna. Let's get to discuss this matter, shall we? It's a matter of national concern for a lot of people who think that when do we see this kind of scenario stopping in our country. First and foremost, let's hear from the presidency. I have the president's spokesperson, Mr. Garba Shehu, joins us from Abuja. Thank you so much, Mr. Shehu, for joining us tonight. Perhaps let's get some clarification from you as regarding this issue of national security and what is being done to fight some of these incidents that we have seen, at least in the past few months or so. First and foremost, we heard yesterday, as part of the briefing by the National Security Advisor, that the issue of arms procurement may have some, there are some gray areas in that, especially the issue of the Super Tucano aircrafts that we're supposed to have procured as a country to fight and prosecute some of these insecurity situations in the country. Only this morning also, we understand that the National Security Advisor had spoken to the BBC Hausa service. And this is part of the things that he said. I quote him now. He says, "No one knows what happened to the money, but by God's grace, the president will investigate to find out whether the money was spent and where the arms went." This looked like what happened on the case that been investigated under this government when the President Buhari government came into force and said that monies meant for arms and ammunition are being squandered and spent. What has happened to these funds? The NSA is saying no one knows where these funds have been spent under the former service chiefs.
Well, Benga, thank you for giving us this opportunity, and to say, I request please you increase the volume from your end so that I hear you very clearly. From what you have said, I have picked out a few things, including the question as to whatever happened to the funds. I imagine that you are talking about the $1 billion US taken from excess crude account with the consent of state governors and was used for military procurements. I want to assure you that nothing of that money is missing. The reference by it in the interview in Hausa service of the BBC by the National Security Advisor, I think has been misconstrued and mistranslated. The NSA made two critical points. One is that we don't have enough weapons, which is a statement of fact. And two, procurements made have not been fully delivered. And look at what happened to that 1,000 US dollars. 530 something, 36 or thereabouts of that amount was paid directly in a government-to-government transaction with the US government. In August 2018, they allowed the Nigerian government to buy 12 Super Tucano aircraft suitable for the kind of war we are fighting in the Northeast. In addition to that, other arms of the military have also made procurements. The Navy has done nearly 100% of the procurements equipment delivered. The Air Force has bought a number of attack helicopters, 35 helicopters from Ukraine. Some of them have been commissioned in national television. We have bought a lot of drones. Now with the Army, there have been problems with the procurements. Equipment have been coming in bits and pieces. This is not ideal. In fact, our biggest procurement is coming from the UAE, United Arab Emirates. As I speak to you now, it is held up in a situation which only diplomacy will resolve. We are talking to them last week. The Nigerian Minister of Defense actually had a meeting with the ambassador of the UAE to Nigeria. And the idea is to resolve this so that this equipment held up will be released. We need them here. So all these procurements are ongoing. Nothing you can buy on the shelf. They are bought on order. NSA did not make accusations of misappropriation because there is none in dealing with this matter.
So is it that the NSA is not saying the truth, or not painting it the right way, because I quote part of that statement that he made in that interview in the Hausa service. And he said, I quote, "It is a fact that money budgeted for that purpose has been misappropriated and no one can account for it." And was making reference to the former service chiefs. If you can clarify to us, because this is the National Security Advisor, perhaps the coordinator of the national security architecture in this country. Is it that he is not saying the truth or is not correct?
Now, you are talking about the need for me to clarify the National Security Advisors as coordinator for, is it military procurements or what?
No, I'm asking, you speak for the president, Mr. Shehu, and if the NSA says that money appropriated for the procurement of arms under the Buhari government have been stolen, we wanted to hear from you. It is right, you are perhaps the rightest source, if there is any English like that. We can't ever get it any better from anyone except yourself, Mr. Garba Shehu, to get us the right information. If the NSA says, and I quote again, "It is a fact that money budgeted for that purpose of arms procurement has been misappropriated and no one can account for it."
It's a shame I'm not able to hear you clearly on your questions. And the NSA did make a lot of statements. If talking about issues that we have seen trending, for instance, is it about the 6,000 troops deployed, supposedly to be deployed to Zamfara, which he said he was unaware of? If that is your question, my explanation is this. The governor of Zamfara had an audience with the president at which the National Security Advisor was missing. In fact, NSA was sent to India by the president on an assignment. So he came back to find this situation, and he was not present at the meeting. He could not have been a witness to commitment that the president has given.
So, I mean, specifically what I was asking, what a lot of Nigerians perhaps are wanting to know, I don't know if you can hear me clearly now, and I will quote the NSA statement. It said, "It is a fact that money budgeted for that purpose has been misappropriated, and no one can account for it." NSA Mongonon quoted in that BBC Hausa service interview.
The sound from you is so weak. Maybe I will put on the sound on TV. If I put on the sound on TV, I will hear you. Can you put on TV, please?
All right.
Maybe I will hear you when it's...
Okay,
the sound coming into my phone is so weak.
Okay, I'll come to you in a moment, but let me get...
now...
Okay, can you hear me now?
So please now ask your question.
Okay, so I was quoting the words...
Yes, I hear you.
Great. The words from the NSA, who was making a reference to arms purchase under the Buhari government. And he says that it is a fact that money budgeted for that purpose has been misappropriated and no one can account for it. End of quote. Those are the words of the NSA. And he was making reference to the former service chiefs, that monies has been spent, but arms we cannot see.
No, I have had the interview. I have had the interview on radio. I have a recording of it. I have done, and it's a Hausa's interview. I think reasonably, I have a good understanding. At no point did the president, NSA say that the money has been appropriated and there is no arms to be seen. They have not been delivered. Yes, that is correct. But the thing is that these are things you buy on order. You don't buy them off the shelf. And for anyone to be fair to this country, to the former service chiefs, these things are there. The Super Tucano aircraft, the helicopters, fighter helicopters, the military trucks, and the drones that have all been bought, 25 additional Air Force fighter aircraft, all of these things are there to be seen. Now, if there is money that has been, I think the Minister of Finance is in a position to give you all of the details, and I hope in the coming days they should be able to render a full account of this. I think that people are just being political. They want to draw moral equivalency between PDP and the APC administration. We are not the same. Things like this cannot happen under a Buhari administration.
All right, we'll take a break now, but part of what the NSA also said at that briefing at the State House on Wednesday, so it was a Wednesday or Tuesday now, he was talking about the fact that the Super Tucano, they keep changing the date of delivery. These are some of the worries that a lot of people are having, that some of these equipments are not arriving. But we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about how can we resolve some of these abductions and the issue of national security in the country. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. I've been talking to the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications, Mr. Garba Shehu, who is in Abuja. And I've since been joined also by former Director of, Assistant Director at the DSS and a security consultant, Mr. Dennis Amakere. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Before I come to you in a moment, please, I wanted to know also, because when the Minister for Aviation visited the President, he came out to say the President, at the time when we had the Jangebe abduction, he said that will be the last. But unfortunately, there is another one. How is the President reacting to this latest one?
If you're referring to what Minister Hadis Rika said on a visit leading a delegation to Katsina, he did correct himself thereafter. He said that given all of the arrangements that have been put in place and strategies that have been formulated and actions being undertaken, look, we are hoping this will be the last. He corrected himself. Because, look, there is a risk in that kind of magisterial statement. I mean, we are a highly political country. Even security, to some extent, is politicized. And he warned that some people will actually try to test the government. They will try to do this in order to embarrass the government. So there's a second one happening. Are we surprised? I'm not surprised at all, because it is possible that somebody might just say, okay, let's do it again at all cost, and sabotage the integrity of the administration. But we are doing the most of that. The President has sent 6,000 troops. He has given 6 weeks deadline to the new military commanders, and he says, I want to see results. We should give them the benefit of the doubt. But it is not all about President Buhari alone. What are the states doing? We have to build walls around our schools. If our school premises are open-ended, they are opened to the forest, can you stop bandits from walking in to take away students, to go away with them? And then these things happen, people will look at Buhari and say, look, it's Buhari who is responsible. Buhari does not build walls around schools. What are the states doing? What are the local councils doing? What are the owners, private school owners doing? We have to work together in order to stop this unwanted situation.
All right, stay with us, Mr. Shehu, for a moment. Let me get a view of a professional here in terms of security. This one is another sad one too many. Some will say, how do we stop it? I mean, I showed what it looked like in the past years. There are school abductions specifically. How do we stop it?
You know, it's a systematic thing. It is not just press statements in addressing this particular issue. It's very systematic, because what is happening, if we do a risk assessment of the situation, we'll find out that there are loopholes. And how do we plug those loopholes is how we solve it. So, first of all, the schools are not secured. So as long as they are not secured, we need to put in place, we need to harden the school security, the perimeter fencing, these alarm systems, training the students to take care of their situation in case of an emergency, training the locality where it happens, and then, of course, making sure that there is a very good response team to address this in case of a problem. But we are not doing that. Right now, I think the system is mainly a fire brigade approach, and that is not going to help. Because, of course, the president have gone ahead to say that there will be no more adoption. But they will test the result, because they know that...
He's just said that the statement from the minister, he corrected himself. that he said he hoped that there won't be no more abduction.
Well,
so maybe the president didn't mean
yeah,
that.
it's still in the positive sense whereby we hope not that we get another adoption. But with all that, they are also listening. They want to test the resolve of the Nigerian, And one thing I will tell you, I'm very, very impressed with the last abduction that happened yesterday. Was it?
The Kaduna Day.
Yeah, the Thursday night.
Yes.
At the forestry school. The response, although it was a little bit late, but for starters, it was good. Good in the sense that they went after them. Here, we don't go after them before, what we used to do, wait, and then you see some politicians go there, make statements, governor will go and make statements, and then they will go away. But this time, they were right after them. If you don't make them feel uncomfortable, they will continue doing it. But when they find out that this venture is becoming dangerous, then they will, be very, very careful.
Your job was largely about intelligence gathering.
Yes.
That's your forte
Of
when
course.
you were in service. After the Jangebe attack, Sokoto State Government, Kano State Government, they moved to shut the schools. There was a concept of the Safe School Initiative.
Yes.
Part of that idea was to set up super camps, super schools, where they brought all the schools together. Does it make sense to go in that direction, or what would you suggest to state government? Because Mr. Shehu is saying the state governments and the other tier of governments also need to take action.
Well, schools, you might have some federal schools, but schools mainly are state schools. And of course, I don't like the idea of governors shutting down schools. Because if you shut down schools, Boko Haram wins. If any school you shut down, Boko Haram will win. Because what is Boko Haram? Western education is forbidden or is not good. And if students are going to acquire Western education, and if you go and shut down the schools, they are winning, because then they're not going to school again. Parents are not sending them back to school and everything. So I would advise that let them have those schools open, tighten the security of those schools, put in place security measures. All this money they are paying for ransom should be given to the security agencies to take care of those schools.
All right. So just a moment. There's one more thing that I'd like you to also weigh in, which, of course, I'd like Mr. Garba Shehu to react to. On the issue of the shoot-on-sight order given by the president reiterated, we heard it first from you. The president has spoken about it, trying to clarify what he meant by that. But I'd like you to take a listen to what Mr. Femi Falana said as regarding the shoot-on-sight order. Take a listen to it, Mr. Shehu.
Virtue of Section 35 of the Firearms Act, the president has to make a proclamation with respect to prohibition of possession of firearms in the country, arms and ammunition. That's the law. There has to be a proclamation. It cannot be an announcement by a media aide of the president. The president has to make a declaration, sign it as if it's issuing an executive order. And the conditions will have to be stipulated.
Mr. Shehu, how do you react to that? That order, Mr. Falana at 4:30, and the manner in which you think it should go. How do you react to that? That order, Falana at 4:30, and the manner in which
He's entitled to his views. Mr. Falana is a political actor. I believe he owns a political party, if I am right. So the election is just barely 2 years ahead. So we look forward to his debut as a candidate. President Buhari won't be a candidate in that election. But the fact of the matter is that the president did say that you needed to register this type of weapons. You cannot just go to the market and buy and own them. They must be registered. And they can only be owned by the security services. So the position of the law is very clear. Does he need to do a proclamation? That is just an opinion. But the president has said it, and the armed forces would take instruction from the commander-in-chief.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Gabashew, for your thought. I'd like to get your view, a quick one, on the shoot-on-sight order. Yeah. Security-wise, in practical-wise, what's the implication?
You know, we are running a democracy now, and I'm sure that's why Falana has brought it under the rule of law, whereby whatever step the president takes should be under the rule of law. And thereby, you know, if he's doing this, what he could actually say or do is to write an executive order, you know, that everybody found with illegal AK-47s should be either shot to maim too, because you have to be very clear about that. Shoot to maim, and of course arrest the person and take the person to court, you know, or disarm the person. So all this should be stated in the executive order. But, you know, we still have a little bit of military backlash where situation, you know, desperate situations need desperate answers. And the president, being a former military general, will feel that this is a problem that has been facing the country for a very long time, and I think we will need drastic action to deal with it.
Mr. Dennis Amakri, it's always a pleasure having you break these things down for us. They might be complicated sometimes, but thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And also, thanks to Mr. Gabashew for clarifying some of these issues for us tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Gabashew, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity. Thank you indeed. And thanks everyone for keeping it right here on China's Television. And that's our show for today, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Sean Akimale. Bye-bye.